Hey monkeys, it's Jim from Small Time Outlaws, and welcome to the 10th video in this simple game programming in monkey tutorial series. In this video, we're going to continue putting together the graphical elements of our game, and then we also have a little lighting trick we're going to add to the mix. So let's go ahead and load up our code. And inside the following module, and we're going to go into the block class down at the bottom. Right here, and we're going to add a couple fields. One's going to be the image. That's going to be the image for our block, or our rocks, a rock image. And then one is going to be for the frame of that image that we want to draw, based on whether this block has other blocks to the left and right of it, or if it's all by itself. So now that we've done that, we need to go into our constructor and set self.image to image and self.frame to frame. We also need to pass these in, so the image coming in and the frame coming in. Now we need to go just in here. We take all this out, and from here all we simply do is just draw this block's image at the block's position, and then using the frame we specify when we create the block. So that's it for this. Let's go back to our main class, main file, and we're going up to the top of our class here. We're going to add a field just under the player's image called rocks image. And for I should mention, for this video, the only images you're going to need in the data folder are the rocks.png and the scorebox.png. And so let's see. So now once we've created this field, go here, say rocks image, assign load image rocks.png. Then we're going to get, I should probably just show it to you right now, why not? So here in our main data folder, see we have rocks and scorebox. I'm going to load this up for you and zoom in, and you can see it's set up with different tiles. So here we got the tile for rocks that are by themselves. And then here we have a tile for rocks that are on the left side of a platform, and then this is for all the ones that are in the middle of a platform. And then we got one here for the right side of the platform. And then you also see here I've added some very well drawn highlighting, and this is something we're going to lay over the top of our rocks, and it's going to kind of fade out the farther away it gets from the lava that's going to be at the bottom of the screen. So it's going to look kind of cool. So let's go back to our code, and each of those tiles are 48 by 48, and there's 8 total including the lighting one. So there's 4 on the top row and 4 on the bottom, and these are also going to be mid-handled. And now let's go back down into our generate floor method, and where we add the blocks, we want to pass in those new arguments we need. So the first one is the rocks image, so just got that main rocks image, and then the frame, and for now we're just going to set it to 0, so all of our rocks are going to look the same. And now I'm just going to make sure this runs real fast. So we're running it, and there you can see our rocks are in, people are landing on them, and then you can see, this doesn't quite look good. We want to fill this in so it looks like one rock. So that's what we're going to do right now. So right here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to run through this array twice, kind of. So first we're going to run through the index stack, then set all of our collision array items to 1 wherever there's a block. Then we're going to, so you can see I kind of separated it with another end. So now we're going to run through our collision array. So we're going to run through all of them once again. So we say collision array dot length. And now what we're going to do is add a block, and since we're going through the whole collision array now, instead of just the index stack, we're going to run into holes in our floor where there is no block, where this value is 0, or this value. So we need to make sure it's 1 first of all. So we're going to say if the item at the current position is 1, so actually it has a block there, and then we're going to end that. And now we need to determine which frame we want to do. So we're going to create a local variable called rock frame, and by default we're going to set it to 2. And 2 is the third frame, or I guess I can go back to it for you. So 2 is going to be our middle frame here. So by default we're going to assume that our rocks have objects on both sides, or have other rocks on both sides. So it's going to be this one by default. And now we're going to check, first we're going to check if we're checking the block currently on the far left, so the first block at position 0, or if there's nothing to the left of this block. So we're going to say I minus 1 is 0. Then we're going to check and it's all the way to the right, or there's nothing to the right of it, like this, I plus 1. So if both of these conditions are true, if it's either all the way to the left or there's nothing to the left of it, or if it's all the way to the right and there's nothing to the right of it, or there's nothing to the right of it, then that means it's going to be that block all by itself. So it's going to be the first frame, or frame 0. And now we're going to check, now I'll say, okay, if neither of these conditions are true, well, that means at least one of them must be true. Otherwise it's this rock frame 2. So now we're going to check, okay, so if it's not that, if it's this one, then rock frame is assigned. If this means that it's all the way to the left, or it has nothing to the left of it, so it's going to be that left frame, so frame 1. Otherwise it's got to be this one that just has either it's all the way to the right or there's nothing to the right of it. So that's going to be that far right rock frame, which is rock frame 3. So end that. And now in here, since we changed this variable to I, so now we got to change this to I. And over here we change the 0 to the rock frame that we decided it's going to be. So now let's go ahead and run this. Whoops. Gotta spell some things correctly. I hope you didn't make that mistake too. Oh geez. Okay. We don't want to use each in. Sorry about that. So we want to go from 0 until the length of the array. Okay. And now you can see all of our platforms are filled in, and it's even kind of seamless. That's thanks to my awesome pixel arting, right? Yeah, alright. Okay, now let's add the lighting to our rocks. So let's go back to the drawing for our block, and we're gonna modify this a little bit. What we're gonna do is actually gonna send this draw function the camera's Y position. So this will tell it based on the camera's position and the rock's position and the screen height. It's going to determine, how far away it is from the bottom of the screen, and that's going to determine the alpha value of our lighting image. So as it goes to the top of the screen, or when it's at the bottom, it's going to be fully opaque. So it's going to be nice and yellow. And then as the rocks travel to the top of the screen, that yellow image we overlay over the top of them is going to fade away. So it's going to look like it's a realistic lighting, even though my artwork is terrible. So below here, we're going to create a local variable called camDist. This is just going to store the camera's distance from the block. So it's just going to be the block position Y minus that cam position that's coming in. And then the next one is going to be a percentage calculation, and this is pretty much what we're going to set the alpha value to. So this is going to be the camera distance divided by the screen height. And since this is a float and this is a float, it's going to give us a value ideally between 0 and 1, but it's likely that this camDist is going to be, it might be greater than screen height, or it might be a lot less, like this camera dist might go into the negative or something. So we want to make sure it's between 0 and 1. So what we're going to do is, just to make sure it stays between 0 and 1, we're going to set this percentage to max. Using the max function, we're going to determine we're going to set it to the maximum value out of 0 and the min function of 1 and the percentage. So let's say the percentage is evaluated to 1.1. Well, it's going to come in here and say, what's the minimum out of 1 and 1.1? Well, that's going to be 1. So it's going to return 1 from this min, and then it's going to what's the max out of 0 and that 1, and that's going to be 1 and assign it the percentage. Now let's say we happen to accidentally go into the negative. So if we accidentally go into the negative, let's say what's the min out of 1.0 and let's say negative 1. This could be, oh well, it's negative 1. Well, what's the max out of 0 and that negative 1 that comes back? Well, that's 0. So that's going to set this percentage to 0 instead of negative 1. So that's how you kind of keep a number between two values using max and min. It's kind of fancy, right? It's so fancy. And then we're going to set the alpha for all of our drawing to that percentage, because the alpha takes a value between 0 and 1.0. Then we're going to draw our rock image at the same position. Whoops. Same position, but this time we're going to do that same frame, but we're going to offset it by 4, and that will give us the corresponding lighting image. So you can see if I load this up, you can see like here's 0, 0 plus 4 is 4, and that's going to be this one. So this is going to be the lighting image for this tile, and this is the lighting image for this tile, and this for tile, and this for this tile. So that keeps our lighting images nice and seamless. So, and once we do that, we got to make sure we set our alpha back to 1, so our future drawing commands aren't, you know, at half transparency. So now let's run this, make sure our lighting works. Oops. Oh yeah, kind of need a closing parenthesis there. So let's make sure our lighting works. Oh no, okay. I'm the worst. So we need to send the camera position .y to our block drawing, like I said. Now we run it. And now you can see it's nice and bright yellow, and as it goes to the top of the screen, it is not working. What the f. And I forgot the camera position is negative. So we need to change it to positive, so it's to get the value in relation to the block's position. So when we render our block, we need to send in the negative, so we'll say 0 minus the cam position, so that'll send it the positive, excuse me. That'll change that to positive. So now let's run this again. Hopefully it'll be working now. Okay, so you should be able to see that it's nice and bright down here, and then as it gets closer to the top of the screen, it fades away. So yeah, looks pretty cool. I'm happy with it, mostly. So if you're not happy with that, you can do something to kind of change it up. You can have it fade faster or slower. So the way we'll do that is we'll create a local variable called fall off. So it's going to set pretty much how much faster you want this to go to fade to, you know, completely transparent. So I'm going to set this to 200 and then subtract this value from both the camera distance and the screen height, and so it's going to fade to completely transparent 200 pixels sooner than usual. Whoops, not 200, but fall off. So now when we run this again, you'll see that it's fading away much sooner. So you can mess with that value, switch it around. If you want it to go all the way, you can take it completely out. If you want it to, you know, fade a lot more, you can change it to a negative value and it'll make it longer, whatever you want to do. So now finally, just add a little interface niceness. We're going to create some blocks to be a background for our little player score boxes. So here we're going to create a field in our main class, back in the Falling Glade class in the main file. Call this field score box, make it the image type. And now in our onCreate, we're going to load the score box. So, oops. Score box assign load image, scorebox.png. And this one we're just going to use It's going to be one frame and it's going to be mid-handled like that. And now let's go into our on render. We're rendering our scores, I should say. Where's that? Right here. Okay. And first thing we want to do, I'm going to change this up. So instead of sticking it at the player's X original position, which could get like kind of funky, I'm going to just starting at the left side of the screen, draw a block for each player, and then just offset them going to the right. So how that's going to work is we create a local variable, call it player count. Then as we go through each player, we are going to set up a Y value inside here, and we'll say starting out, this is going to be centered. This is going to be center position of our score box. So let's call it, we'll offset it from the right side by 400, and then we're going to offset each box by a certain number of pixels, and we'll say 150, and then multiply it by player count. And so the first time we go through, player count is going to be 0, so it's just going to set the first one at 100 in the X direction. And then the Y, we'll just set a Y so we don't have to write 30 all throughout here. So we'll set it to 30. That's just going to be from the top of the screen down. And now down here, let's go ahead and increment our player count by 1. And let's see, first we want to draw the image, the score box image at our X and Y. And now we're going to draw this player's image player frame not at this original position X, but at the current X that we calculated here. And instead of putting it in the middle of the score box, we're going to bump it back. Let's change this to 40 so it's not bumped back as far. Then its Y position is going to be our Y we set here, and then that frame offset, that's fine. And then when we draw the text, it's going to be the score, and instead of the X, we want it to be off to the right side of our score box. So we'll make that 40 to the right, set this to the Y, and leave this right aligned and vertically aligned. So that should be all we need to do for that. So just kind of look that over, make sure you got it right. And now let's run this. And there you go. As you can see, we have our player box with the players there. And that's going to do it for this video. Join me in the next one. We're going to make even more graphical enhancements. So see you there. If you have any questions, email me at jim@smalltimeoutlaws.com or leave some comments down below. Thanks for watching.